Good evening, Rick.
Hello, Mark.
Thank you for agreeing to spend a few minutes with me. Um, just briefly, before we get into why I wanted to have this conversation with you, can you tell, for anybody that's watching the video, what it is that you do? What's your occupation?
Well, my occupation, I work for an industrial wholesale company, so we supply material to construction sites.
Now, was that affected? I'm interested in what the current global pandemic, how that affected you and your business. What adjustments did you have to make?
Well, because we're in the supply chain for construction, that meant we did have to continue on with our business.
Okay.
So certain amount of construction has to keep going. Some of the construction that we do supplies material to places like hospitals or institutions.
Oh, okay.
So it does mean that we were able to continue, or we were required to continue, just a matter of trying to adapt to the proper situations. As all the protocol says, lots of hand washing, lots of disinfectant at every door, making sure that everyone's being careful. Of course, we were lucky enough to be able to wear masks every day from the time we walk in the door to the time we leave at the end of the night, and
Wow.
and get your temperature taken every morning to make sure that you're healthy enough to come in and start working.
Wow.
We've been fortunate. We've had no incidents at our location, so we're able to continue.
Oh, that's good to hear. Rick, you and your family have been involved with St. Andrews and Westside for many years. Can you tell me some of the jobs, some of the ways you've served the church?
Well, one of the early jobs that I managed to, how do I put it, get invited to take on was participating on the board of managers.
Oh, okay.
It was a good introduction because you're able to take a position that had a lower level of responsibility, working as part of a team and getting to know a good group of people. So that was a good way for me to kind of get my feet wet, as it were, and learn the different parts of the church operations and see where I could provide whatever skills that I had available. That was quite a few years back. I did spend 12 or 13 years on the board of managers, a couple of years as the board chair. So it gave me a good opportunity to understand the inner workings of the mechanics of the church operations. It was a good introduction.
Good. More recently, you've served on the session.
Indeed. I was invited to join the session a number of years ago at a time that was a little bit difficult for me. I had an awful lot going on and I had to turn that down.
Okay.
Which was kind of challenging and a bit frustrating for me because I really wanted to be involved in it. Fortunately, a couple of years later, I had another opportunity came up again and I was invited a second time. So I was able to take advantage of that and I joined the session in St. Andrews. And then when we had our amalgamation, I was fortunate enough to be able to join the session from there as well.
Excellent. Excellent. So about 3 months ago, when we had to close the building, discontinue worship services and move on online, and close the building for meetings and all of the groups that use it, we wanted that the building would be checked on a regular basis. So you volunteered for that job. What has that entailed in the past 3 months? A little bit more than that now. Checking the church building. What does that involve?
Well, actually, it was kind of a sense of familiarity again, because as I mentioned, I had spent quite a number of years on the board. So during that period of time, I think I got to know the church pretty well from one end to the other. And of course, at the same time, my children grew up through the church. So I ended up exploring lots of places where children might disappear to. But having left the session, or left the board and moved into the session, I didn't have as many physical duties to do. So having the opportunity to go back and basically patrol every corner of the church to make sure everything was still in good working order was kind of a familiar sense. And I kind of enjoyed that matter of just walking through, making sure that everything is secure, that no doors have been left open, that no windows had accidentally been broken or no water running all over the floors. And for the most part, I found it's been, the building has been well taken care of, and things have been good.
So really a rather predictable task. And you're there almost every day. Occasionally I'll do it, and Dave Van Gootsler takes a turn. But you've done the majority of it, so it sounds like it's pretty routine.
It worked out well.
Yeah.
Sorry, Mark, I was going to say it worked out well because since I do have to continue working on a regular basis, I am driving home more or less by the church every day. So it seemed like a logical thing for me to add to my list.
Exactly. So as I say, every day, a logical thing to do, routine, mundane. Last month, though, you came upon something rather unexpected, not routine, not mundane. Can you tell me about that?
Every once in a while, we do find the occasional surprise.
I'm going to ask Tara to put up the picture now of what it is. Well, you're calling it a surprise. Frankly, it scares me. So Tara will put that photograph up. And can you tell us what that is in the hallway there?
During the investigation, walking through and just outside Jan's office, hanging from the roof at the time, I discovered what appeared to be a bat hanging there, just as comfortable as can be.
So not a usual sight that we see in the hallway just outside of Jan's office, outside the sanctuary doors. You sent that out to several of us and asked, did anybody have any removing a bat from the church experience? And I, as minister of Westside, had a vague recollection that was the treasurer's job. And sure enough, I got in touch with Bert Perryman, and I think it was the next day, Bert removed the bat.
It did appear to fall under his wealth of experience.
Exactly.
He arrived on scene with the official bat stunning device, which some people call a tennis racket. And he was successfully able to convince the bat to relocate to another place.
Excellent. Well, Bert can be a very persuasive person.
Especially with a stick.
So that was last month. Then last week, again, another exception to a rather routine, predictable task that you've taken on, walking around the church. Can you tell me what happened last week?
Well, yes, I did discover another visitor in Jan's office this time.
Right in Jan's office.
Work party. Sorry?
Right in Jan's office.
Oh, yes. Quite comfortable. There'd been a work party going on in the church during the day. It was a particularly hot day, and I assumed that somebody had propped the doors open to allow a little air to move through the building while they were working. And as I said, it was hot. I think at that particular time, a rather ferocious-looking chipmunk decided that the cool shade inside the church was better than the hot sun outside. So he found his way into the church and made himself at home in Jan's office. Our work party then eventually finished their work, locked up all the doors, and went on home. A few hours later, I was going by to do my normal walkthrough. I opened the door of the office to check and make sure things were fine in there, and he was sitting quite comfortably on Jan's desk, and very much at home, but somewhat disturbed by the fact that I was disturbing him.
Now, I do appreciate that you realize this, however, did not fall under the removal of chipmunks, does not fall under the job description of the treasurer of Westside. So you took it upon yourself to take care of this situation. Can you tell me what you did?
Sorry, I almost forgot. When I'm talking about my adventures, I usually wear my adventure hat.
Yes. Yes.
Sometimes people accidentally confuse me with Crocodile Dundee, but
well, they'll see why once you tell this. Yes.
So yes, I set about to trap the wild beast that was in Jan's office. I brought in a trap, carefully baited it, and then came back the next morning to see how he was doing, to find that the creature had cleaned everything out of my trap and carried on without bothering to trip the trap door, and was sitting up on top of the file cabinets just giving me a hard time because, well, now the food in the trap was empty. I was then faced with a trap that I needed to reset and no bait to use. So I scoured around the church looking for something to use for bait. Of course, with the church being closed, pretty well all the food had been cleaned out, but I did manage to find a jar of jam down in the refrigerator. Now, that's not the famous Gascon gourmet jam that you may have mentioned from time to time, because I knew that would have brought him in immediately. But fortunately, it seemed to be something that he liked after all. I put it in the trap, went and did the rest of my patrol through the church, came back only 5 minutes later to find him nestled comfortably inside the trap with the door closed, and perhaps a little less pleased than he was earlier.
Excellent. Now, I have to ask the question that more than one person's asking right now. You went home, Rick, and you got a chipmunk trap. Why do you have one of those?
I have to admit, I have had the occasional problem with chipmunks bothering my own house. So I was able to rely on my own familiarity with that adventure, and didn't have to bother going outside and calling in reinforcements.
So well, thank you, Rick. At some point during this conversation, Tara will edit in the picture of the caged chipmunk, and quoting yourself, yes, a ferocious looking chipmunk. And then you took it outside, and much like Bert, you convinced Chippy to relocate.
Well, since a number of people had been involved in the expedition so far, I sent a message out to everyone on the internet, the church intranet communication board, and asked if somebody was looking for a pet.
Yes.
Several people were complimenting on how cute he was, but nobody actually volunteered to take him off my hands. So I took him for a nice drive out in the country and found him a new home, left him out there.
Very good. Well, again, Rick, thank you for taking on this task and all of the unexpected events that have come with it. The session meets at the end of the month, and it will be my recommendation to session that we add to your titles, former board member, former board chair, current elder, and I think that you will from hence be known as the WGW, the Westside Game Warden. That will be my recommendation to the session.
I can't tell you how honored I am.
Well, thank you. Just to be clear, the compensation that goes with being the GWG is equivalent to what you currently get for being an elder at Westside.
I would expect maybe another 10%.
We'll put on 10% on top of that. Thank you, Rick, for your time, and keep us informed of your further adventures.
Well, every visit to Westside is a bit of an adventure, so it's always fun going in there.
Thank you.
We'll get back to.
We'll see you later then, Rick. Bye-bye.
Good night.